31st of August 1969, 37-year-old pilot Glenn Dowles would take off in his 172 Cessna aircraft from Chicago Midway Airport, heading for Des Moines in Iowa. Now, the 37-year-old pilot, experienced but inexperienced with the 172 Cessna and the weather conditions that lay ahead. He was aware that it was bad weather ahead, but he went with it anyway. And on board his aircraft, two very influential people. Now, as he boarded the Des Moines, he went for Newton and Lower Airport instead due to the severe weather conditions. And he overrun the runway, and a female witnessed the plane going up and coming back. And during low cloud, it went down. As it come under, it struck an oak tree, in this lone oak tree in a cornfield. And Glenn Dowles was thrown free of the wreckage, in which he died instantly, as was a 28-year-old Frankie Frato, son of mob boss Lou Frato, and former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Rocky the Rock Marciano, would stay in the wreckage, but debris would pierce the former champion's heart and kill them, all three men, instantaneously. And that left one of the biggest shocks and tragedies in world boxing. But today I'm going to focus on the Rock's career and the man that nearly chased down his record, who arguably put out the biggest insult towards Rocky Marciano himself when he was in no position to defend himself. So let's just sit back and focus on the great Rocky Marciano. Yeah, so the man himself, he attempted a career briefly into baseball, didn't get picked up, went into boxing, yeah? And it just was a natural, but there was no great big amateur career behind him, few amateur fights, some fighting in the forces, turned professional. And what got him his notoriety was that he continued winning, and also winning by knockout. Win, knockout. In fact, he got 49 fights with 43 knockouts. And three of those opponents that went a distance with him, he ended up reversing and knocking them out. So there's only three men that jumped in the boxing ring with him that went a distance, yeah, with the great Rocky Marciano. Now, this was a record that spoke for himself. He retired at the age of 32 in 1955. Yeah, he's also the only fighter that's knocked out whole world title challengers. Every man that got in his way and challenging for a world title, he knocked them out. Now, this record spoke for itself. The man was a humble man. He didn't go out of his way to create this record. He had no knowledge of what it was going to create coming back. I mean, you would think, why not go for half-century 50 fights? But this was not on his radar. He'd run his race. He'd beaten everything that was put in front of him. Whatever their age was, whatever their difference was, it was not his fault. He was just found a way to win. He was even points against great boxers on occasion, but he found a way to pull out the equaliser, the winning punch. Great stamina, only 5'10". Yeah, apparently stature from his mother's side of the family, very strong lady, and that's where he got it from. Very nice guy. So nice that the great Joe Louie come back at 37 years of age. Louie had only lost a fight to Max Mellon, the longest reigning heavyweight champion of the world. As we know, the great Joe, arguably the best ever heavyweight of all time, arguably, right? He'd come back at the age of 37 to take on Rocky Marciano. He wasn't successful because, of course, Marciano knocked him out the ring and out in 8 rounds. But what was very interesting about this is that Rocky Marciano went into the dressing room of Joe Louie in tears. Now, of course, the Brown Bomber being a black man and Marciano, of course, being white. Clearly, a big part of the story have got to come. Clearly no colour thing here. Actually, went in his dressing room in tears. Marciano actually crying to Joe Louie. And Joe Louie says, "Man, Rocky, why are you crying?" He says, "You're my hero, man. I did not want to beat you. I did not want to hurt you." And he says, "Oh, relax, Rocky, man. It's just the game. It's just the game. Come on, don't cry." And he had to be consoled. The victor of the fight had to be consoled by the guy that was defeated. And I think that was a great touch. Now, his record was very nearly chased down by none other than a great heavyweight, but it's just somewhat mad. This is stigma that stays in the boxing world forever. And if some of you guys have forgotten it, let me re-enlighten you what happened, how it happened. So Larry Holmes got to his 48th fight, yeah, undefeated. He's about to equal, he's 48-0, and he's about to equal Marciano's record if he can manage to beat Spinks. Now, lots have been made, including Marciano's surviving brother, Peter Marciano was there, and lots was made, and he was asked in a press conference, Peter Marciano was asked, did he want his brother's record to be equalled and better? He said, not necessarily. He's my brother. He said, my brother could have maybe went on longer, but he set this record without anything. So that was said. Anyway, what happened next? A close decision, and Michael Spinks wins it, and Larry Holmes doesn't equal his record, so Marciano's record stays intact. It was a close fight. I think, arguably, I think Spinks just nicked it, in my opinion. I watched it way back, yeah, in 1985. And so immediate press conference, and here's where the problem lies with the great Larry Holmes, a man that I massively, massively admire as a boxer. I've learned so many of his skills, I've taken into my mind. It's one of the greatest jabs, if not the greatest jab ever in professional boxing. Now, this is what he says after, point blank, yeah. He says, out the crowd, I could have beaten Rocky Marciano, yeah. White men didn't want me to win the fight. I could have beaten Rocky Marciano. He said he wasn't good enough to hold my jockstrap.
Rocky couldn't carry my jockstrap.
And he turns into the crowd to Peter Marciano, Rocky's brother, and says, you wouldn't be here getting freebies and having this notoriety if it weren't for me. There will never be another white heavyweight champion of the world. All the time black men are fighting. Now, he says, and I'll repeat, he says, he could not have held my jockstrap. At 5'10", yeah, a man so much smaller than me, and you're claiming he's the greatest and he has this record. Not good enough to hold my jockstrap. Never be another white world champion again, all the time black men are fighting. Well, what did happen, white men did continue to fight. Larry Holmes had his chance to put the second fight right with Michael Spinks, and to show, and he didn't, and he lost again in a fairly close fight, but he lost and there was little dispute. So he had a couple of chances to beat Spinks and he didn't, but he seemed to be blaming everything, and he actually said it may be created pressure that I tried to equal Rocky's record, and it maybe didn't perform as well. So I mean, who's that to blame? Come with the man, come with the moment, these great people, and he didn't come off that moment, yeah. So a great fighter himself, what a terrible, terrible thing to say, but some stuff comes back to, Big Larry. Now, Larry clearly was a great fighter, and there's a massive admirer of his skill and his stuff, but obviously I'm not too pleased on what was said there, and who would be. Now, let's go back to see if Larry can eat some of his words. There will never be another world white champion, all the time black men are fighting. To me, that's clearly racist. He claims not, yeah, but what other excuse, what else is there? Yeah, he's clearly bitter he didn't achieve it, and he's using colour card for sure, no doubt about it. Well, what happens, we move a decade and a half or so in from the 2000 onwards. Who rules the heavyweight division? None other than Vladimir Klitschko, yeah? What colour is he? White. Who does he lose it to? Tyson Fury. What colour is he? White. Who rules? A couple of black men nose in, like Anthony Joshua's and that, but they get seen off. Who comes in, takes the throne from Tyson Fury? Of course, Alexander Usyk. What colour is he? White. Well, there you go, egg on your face there. But the words that I really like that stick with me to stick back to you, Larry, when you've been disrespectful to the great man that lays in the cemetery, that found a way to win. I'm not saying he was better than you, but I'm definitely not saying he's worse, because it's a situation where you cannot ever prove, yeah, They're different eras. This man found a way to win. You said he beat Asian fighters. What he beat was the best of his era that day, and he done it in style. 43 of them by knockout, yes. Everything was put in his way done, and he retired unaware of any landmarks, and 49 was quite an unlandmark, wasn't it? He just said, right, 32-year-old retired. What you said about the great man was 5'10", no chance, and is not good enough to hold your jockstrap. Well, 37-year-old Larry Holmes went in against a fighter. How tall do you think he was in 1986? How tall do you think he was? Come on, guess. Exactly the same height as Rocky Marciano. 5'10", and he got knocked out in 3 rounds. Of course, Mike Tyson knocked Larry Holmes out. So, a couple of things there that come back to bite you, buddy. One was a white man would never win the world title again. Totally wrong. 5'10" man, no chance. You got whopped by a 5'10" man. Okay, you were aging, but the big difference was, so was Joe Louie aging. The big difference here was, yeah, Rocky Marciano, a man of class, went into the dressing room of Joe Louie crying, actually saying he's so sorry that he had to inflict defeat on the man. I'll tell you something, I bet Mike Tyson, 5'10", didn't knock on your dressing room in tears and say, so sorry, Larry. That's the difference. So, 2 great champions here. Larry Holmes, who really was a great champion. And I know you've got some regret that what you said there, for sure. And you now claim you're not racist at all. Your daughter married a white guy. Your son married a white girl. Yeah, okay, I understand. But these words, you had 24 hours to chew on it, dwell on it. And they just didn't spurt out in a moment of anger. These words were there, in here, hand in here.
About the whole thing. Rocky couldn't carry my jockstrap.
You said them, you could regret them. You actually say you think like you're underrated. Well, if you go around with comments like that, there's a fair chance you can be a little bit underrated. But 2 great fighters. Who will win, we'd never know. We know who still holds the record, and we know who had the most decorum, the greatest man with decorum, and that lies with, of course, the great Rocky Marciano.
Come home. Joe Louis kissed the top of the casket, looked at the ceiling of the funeral home, and said, God is getting himself a beautiful man.
Larry, if you're still out there going strong, let's pray you keep going strong, yes. It's what it is. You said it, we can't change it. I'm bringing it to light. Thanks for tuning in. In the meantime,